When we wear fragrances, sometimes we want fragrances that are very casual, very simple, yet effective. Sometimes we want fragrances that are very intricate, complex, give us a very unique personality, and take us on an olfactive journey. That is precisely what is happening with the next 10 fragrances that I'm about to share with you. These are 10 of the most complex fragrances in my collection on the niche side of things. I'm excited to share this list with you, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my video on 10 of the most complex fragrances in my collection, let you know why I think they're so complex, and also let you know how I feel about each one of them. I do want to start things off by mentioning that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it, hit the bell so that you can stay notified on future uploads, and give the video a thumbs up if you take something of value from today's episode. I also want to mention that if you want, you can purchase any of these fragrances at Olfactory Factory. They are a niche discounter. They also have a lot of designer fragrances too. Really good customer service, fast shipping, and I personally trust them, and they have been a source of fragrance purchases for me for a long time. And so I'm going to leave all of the links down below, which are not affiliate links, but I am putting them there for your convenience. So let's go ahead and dive into the list of 10 really complex fragrances in my collection. I'm excited to share these with you. Also let you know why I think they're so complex. And we're going to start with a brand where no matter which fragrance you purchase from this brand or you check out from this brand, it's going to have like a million notes listed. And this one is the Spirit of Dubai. And I urge you, go online, look up this brand, and just take a look at how many notes are in the note pyramid for any given fragrance. Now, the one that I have here is Turath. I love this one. I don't think Olfactory Factory carries Turath, but they do have a few other Spirit of Dubai fragrances actually for really good price. But the only one from this brand that I currently own is Turath, and this stuff is so complex. Rose and spices and woods and vanilla and fruits and florals and resins. There's so much happening in here. Of course, the next one I want to talk about, even though it's kind of on the cleaner side of things, there is an element of complexity about it, because even with the woods that are listed, with the florals that are listed, none of these notes jump out at you explicitly, and that is Oceania by Roja Parfum. Definitely one of my favorite fragrances. Also happens to be my scent of the day. And it just smells so clean, so soapy, fresh, opulent, luxurious. One of my favorites of all time. I'll always repurchase this fragrance. And it just has this intermingling of white florals, but then you also have some smooth woods where there's so much happening in there that it's hard to say, oh yeah, I smell jasmine. Oh yeah, I smell cedarwood. So for that reason, I would venture to say this fragrance is rather complex. Of course, we also have Tabac Rose by BDK Parfum. This one also goes in a few different directions. So at times it has this sort of, you know, plum, praline kind of a sweetness. It has vanilla, it has the rose in here, the tobacco, which is very gently spiced. Beautiful fragrance, definitely something that is more upscale. If you're dressed up in the winter time, you want to give your best impression, and you also don't mind a touch of sweetness to your fragrances. Tabac Rose is great for that. And then here we have Bravo by Ramon Monegal. This fragrance has cassis, strawberry, apricot, leather, ton of notes in this fragrance. Still smelling the Oceania on me, and it's divine. But this has a ton of notes in it, and it's definitely one of the more complex Ramon Monegal fragrances I've tried, just because at times you pick up on the fruitiness, at times you get this musky vibe from the cassis, at times it comes across a little spicy because of the leather. The next fragrance I want to mention is also on the sweet side of things. This one is kind of like a spicy, rosy, ambery, praline kind of a fragrance by Royal Crown. This is called Sultan. Now, they have some fragrances that are on the simple side of things as well, like Alchemia or Jasmine Oud, or it might be Oud Jasmine now that I think about it. Celebration is rather simple as well, but then they also have a lot of offerings that are rather complex, and Sultan is definitely at the top of that list. Kind of spicy and sweet, almost reminds you as though you're in a bakery. You also have this touch of vanilla in the base, which is really decadent. The next fragrance I want to talk about is definitely a spicy rose. This one has black pepper, it has some ambery vibes, a balsamic base, and it has a decent amount of sweetness to it as well. By Electimus London, this is called Sumanus. This is an awesome long-lasting, sweet rose fragrance. More of an emphasis on the rose and the spices rather than the sweetness, but one I'd highly recommend if you are a fan of that type of a DNA. And then next up in the list, I would mention this as a complex fragrance because of the contrasting nature of a lot of the ingredients, but they play off one another and they bounce off one another very nicely. By Parfum de Marly, this one is called Kalan. So you guys know this one, right? It's spicy, it's peppery, you have the blood orange in the opening, but then you also have like this lavender heart before you get into this dark, leathery, spicy base. And then you also have the sweetness, which comes out of nowhere. So Kalan is really a unique fragrance, kind of like a Cerberus, if you will, where it kind of has all of these different personalities and all of these different things happening in there. It's an amazing fragrance. I personally love it, especially for the colder weather. I usually switch off between this one and Carlisle, but both of them are great. Oh, and Herod as well. Let's not forget Herod. The second to last fragrance I want to talk about is probably the most complex fragrance from this particular brand, made by one of my favorite perfumers. This one by Amouage is called Jubilation 25. This one has incense, resins, apopanax, blackberry, woods, warm balsamic ingredients. It is such an amazing fragrance that smells so rich and so opulent. And when I'm smelling it, I'm always picking up on different things. And, you know, occasionally I have to revisit the note breakdown so I can look at it and say, you know what, do I get this explicitly? And while sometimes I might focus on the sweet myrrh, other times I focus on the woods, other times I focus on that fruity accord that's in there. Really special fragrance from the brand to commemorate their 25th anniversary of being on the market. Composed by Bertrand Duchaufour, one of the brand's best and also just one of the best niche fragrances of all time. No denying that. And the fragrance in the #1 spot, for me, whenever I smell this ingredient, it always conveys a sense of complexity. And that ingredient is cypriol oil, otherwise known as nagarmoda. So it's very dark and spicy, and it almost has like this woodsy oud-like tendency. But in this fragrance, you also have this rose note, you have some incense vibes, you have some resins, maybe elemi if I'm not mistaken. I haven't looked at the note breakdown for this one in a long time. I'm really just going off of memory. But that cypriol and the spices and the rose and all of these other things happening in here is really, really complex. Definitely one of the most complex fragrances in my entire collection. This one by Nichane is called Shem. If you want something that's on the darker, spicy side of things with an utterly luxurious presentation, super long-lasting fragrance. I've reviewed this one, so I'm gonna leave a card to my review up here if you're interested in learning more about it, but there is no denying the power and complexity of a fragrance like Shem, and I would highly urge everybody out there to try it if you are a fan of dark, spicy, yet slightly fresh fragrances. Shem is really quite beautiful. So there you have it, ladies and gents. Thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this list. Please let me know, what is the most complex fragrance in your collection? I'm wondering if you have anything that beats the spirit of Dubai. I'm really curious about that. But leave a comment down below. Always love the interaction. Always love reading your comments. If you enjoyed this video and you want to support this channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to check out Olfactory Factory because they do carry a lot of really hard to find designer and niche fragrances for an amazing price. Thanks for tuning in. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.